Lovely people, I am finally back! But hey guys, I am back. I know it's kind of been an awkward length of time since I last made a video. I've been busy doing my summer assignments because I procrastinated, like I usually do. Everything in life. But I'm here, and this video is kind of gonna be a little bit rambly, but I wanted to finally tell you guys some of the stuff that I did on my England trip that I got back from like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Because it was a really great trip, and I thought you guys might like to know some stuff that I thought was fun. So these are just kind of the highlights of my trip, I guess. Basically, that's like the must-sees, in my opinion, if you go to England, I guess. It's gonna be cool. So, the first thing that I really loved was Big Ben. Now, I was in England for 2 weeks total, but I was in London for 1 whole week. And Big Ben is like the first thing I saw. Got there and it was there in all its glory, being absolutely beautiful. It's just, I've seen pictures of it before, obviously, who hasn't? But just being there in person is just absolutely breathtaking. Fun fact, Big Ben isn't the clock tower, it's the bell inside the clock. This apparently means bell. The tower is like Big Ben clock tower. Big Ben is actually the bell, and there's a whole story behind it. It was named after the guy who made it, I think. I could be wrong, don't hate me. But yeah, just, it's kind of like simple, like, oh yeah, go to England, you have to see Big Ben. But really, you don't know until you actually see it in person. The next thing is, on our second night in London, we saw Matilda on West End. Y'all know me, I'm like, yes, musicals, good! But it was so cool. Like, number one, the theater was beautiful. Like, the street it was on, absolutely gorgeous. The theater itself was just, it was nice. It wasn't like Broadway stage size, but it was really nice. It wasn't too big, but it wasn't like tiny. And the cast was absolutely phenomenal. I will say the first half of it, the first act, I didn't actually like it too much. I thought it kind of dragged on and it didn't really like tie together. But then the second act, just so good. I loved it. The acting was hilarious. It was amazing. It more than made up for the first half. So if you happen to be in England, go see Matilda before it's off West End, because it's really great. The next thing we did is we saw Hampton Court Palace, which is like this beautiful palace. I'm saying beautiful a lot in this video, but it was so pretty. Like, the palace grounds were just beautiful in general, and then the gardens, so pretty. Something that I thought was kind of cool was they had like actors dressed up in like little old outfits, like fancy dresses, and some guy was playing the king. They put on these scripted little scenes between each other, and they would do it like in front of visitors, and it was just really cute. And they would like walk around, and the king would be like, "You will not turn your back to me, madam," and the maids would be like just running around ushering everyone, reminding people to call him His Majesty. And it was cute. It was a fun way to kind of bring the palace to life. Another thing that was just incredible, we went to the Tower of London, which, for those of you who don't know, isn't actually a tower. It's just a building. It's where they keep the crown jewels, and that's what we saw. There was so much more to see, but the line for the crown jewels was really long. We didn't feel like waiting in it and then going to do a bunch of other stuff. So we saw the crown jewels, and oh my god. There was crowns, there was scepters, there was every kind of jewel I had ever seen and more, and just looking at it was breathtaking. And when you go in to see the crown jewels, you're not allowed to take pictures. They have 2 conveyor belts on either side, so you can't just stand there being like, ooh, pretty. But yeah, it was just, I can't even display in words how amazing the crown jewels were. Westminster Abbey. Do I even have to explain? It was huge. It was like 100 feet tall. Absolutely beautiful. Like, I'm not much one for like churches and whatnot, but Westminster Abbey blew my mind. Clapping is necessary because that's how cool it was. So gorgeous. Beautiful nonetheless, and the tombs of the kings were just... The detail on the tombs was just so intricate. Like, someone had to like take the time to like carve each little swirl and word into it, and just absolutely incredible. Like, time had barely taken away any of the beauty of the thing. Then after we left London, we went to Windsor Castle. It was a castle. Like, obviously it was beautiful, but what I thought was just the most breathtaking of the thing was the gardens. The gardens at Windsor Castle are beautiful. They're really, really big, first of all, and just each flower and each bush and each plant is so perfectly placed that it's just a picture-perfect scene. After we left Windsor Castle, we went and stayed in a little hotel, and I think it was Winchester, but I could be horribly wrong. It started with a W. And we stayed at this little hotel called the Langstone Hotel. This isn't like one of like the big attractions, but I thought I would mention it just because it was my favorite hotel that we stayed at. It was huge. Like, I think it might have been a converted mansion, but again, I could be wrong. But just the grounds that it was on was beautiful. There was like extensive lawns and gardens, and it was obviously old. Like, the room keys were like actual like keys, like metal keys. They were like this big and like door, and the rooms were absolutely beautiful, and the people there were so sweet. They were so nice, and like they booked dinner reservations for us, and it was just really cute. And then when we left, they gave us these little things. They're little containers, and they have mints in them, and they have the Langstone seal, coat of arms on it. It was just really cute, so I thought I'd throw that in there. We did a few more things, and then we went to Stonehenge. Stonehenge is something that I have personally wanted to see since I was really, really little, because that kind of like mystery has always just been really interested in me. It's just always really interests me. So seeing Stonehenge finally in real life was kind of a dream come true. Next up is the Roman baths. We visited Bath, obviously. But the Roman baths were really, really neat. I didn't know too much about them going into seeing it, but my dad was like, okay, now we're seeing the Roman baths. It's gonna be really, really cool, guys. And I was like, this is gonna be a hole in the ground. But we went in. You were allowed to drink some of the water from the baths. I didn't, because apparently it tastes like crap. But you were allowed to. And I was seriously debating doing it, but I didn't. And then there was like the hot spring bath that was still bubbling. And it was just kind of cool to be there and like stand where like Romans had stood before. I don't know, like obviously you walk in history everywhere you go in London, but that just kind of stuck out to me a lot. Really cool. Okay, the Lake District. To anyone who even knows what that is, do I have to say more? By far the most beautiful thing I saw on the entire trip. We rented a car and we're driving through the hills. We spent an entire day just driving through the Lake District, over the hills, almost falling off cliffs because my dad doesn't know how to drive on England. Just a breathtaking scenery. Like the hills and mountains and little lakes and rivers. Just, it's a really nice thing to see. It's just really relaxing when your dad's not almost driving off cliffs. And then there were sheep everywhere. Like, we had to stop, I kid you not, like every 30 seconds to let a sheep cross the road. Because they're not like there's no barriers protecting them from like the road and their little pasture. So they're just kind of walking around wherever they want, and it was kind of funny, and there were so many. And finally, Warwick Castle. Now, this was like the last big thing we saw, and I wasn't looking, I was looking forward to it, obviously, but I wasn't like, yeah, let's do it, it's gonna be awesome. It's just like, oh, it's another castle. My dad told me we had tickets for like a Merlin exhibit, and I was like, oh cool, it's just gonna be like stuff about the legend Merlin, whatever. I was wrong. We got there and went inside, and it was a whole exhibit on the TV show Merlin, which is like my favorite TV show of like anything ever. So it was kind of for little kids. I was the oldest like child there, but I definitely fangirled the hardest. And there was like Gaius, and there was like wax figures of Colin Morgan and props from the actual show, and it was really cool. And if you don't watch Merlin, you have no idea what I'm talking about, but I don't care because it was freaking awesome. And we climbed up like all the big towers and just kind of looked out over like the castle grounds. And I'm usually terrified of heights, but at the top of the tallest tower, I completely forgot about that because the view that I was looking at was just enough to make me forget about everything else. Like every kind of fear, worry, and pain from climbing up 500 stairs, it all just went away while I looked out over this beautiful expanse of land. And it's just really neat. So those were some of my favorite things that I did in London. Sorry about the rambliness of the video and how many times I said the words beautiful, neat, cool, and awesome. But that's just how amazing this trip was for me. Going to England has been like a life dream of mine since forever. So that was just really great. But I hope you guys liked this kind of talkative video. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, as that would be nice of you. And I'll see you all next week with a new video, and it's probably going to be making myself look ridiculous yet again. Bye!